Okay, this is an information video on a Kawasaki Bayou 185. And sorry, it's kind of dark here. I just figured I'd make this video to give people pointers and everything on what everything is, and to give different kind of diagnostics and everything. Well, first, if your motor is not running, okay, just say that you put carburetor cleaner in the intake and it's not doing anything. Well, no, okay, say you put, before we get to there, say you put carburetor cleaner in it and it fires and it's not running. Well, first thing you need to do is, well, this one won't do it for us right now because the carburetor is full right now, is turn your ignition on, and if you don't, and if you haven't had it running for a while and you don't hear a clicking, like a brrrr, you know, just like the pump, if the pump isn't running, that's your problem. You need to take the pump off and you clean it out. If your pump is bad, you need to buy a new one, which that can be a real pain to buy one. And if you do find one that is brand new, they are normally around $150, but you can find some on eBay for about $60. And if you get a new one and it's running, that was your problem. And if it's not running still, you need to check your float valve inside of it. If your float valve is well, if it's stuck shut, that's your problem right there. You need to take the spring is what the problem is. Normally there's a spring inside of it, like it's a return spring, kind of like for a diaphragm, but there's no diaphragm in this carburetor. If the spring is off, which most of the time it will pop off every now and then. Not on all, but this one, it has a problem. I have a temporary fix for that for a while, but if it is, then you just need to push it back on. Can be a real pain, but you can get it back on, put everything back together, and if it runs, that was your problem. And another one is that the spark plug wires come in about, well, right here is a couple sections. This section tends to pop off, so if it'll run rough and it'll shut off. So just check that every now and then. And well, another thing is obviously the battery. Well, if your battery's dead and you try pull starting it, it probably won't start without a ton of carburetor cleaner. And carburetor cleaner is not good to give a motor for like just too much of it, because it's very explosive and gets really, and it just overheats your motor. So it's just not a good idea. So another thing is, if it's leaking oil, the first thing that comes to people's minds is the exhaust valve, because a lot of people on these motors will straight pipe them and they'll think that it's okay. Well, no, not necessarily, unless if you have hardened valves, that's the only time it's okay idea to straight pipe it. If you don't have hardened valves, it can burn up your motor, and that's how it can leak exhaust out the exhaust, but it won't get on the motor. That's not as big of a deal as that's a harder fix, but the fix on this is easier. If your valve seals, no, your valve covers don't have gaskets, they have these O-rings on them, and they're just fitted O-rings. And once you take them off once, you have to replace them every time you take it off. Every time you torque it down and put it back on and you take it off, it's a good idea to replace them, or put some sealant on it to help it seal, or else it will leak oil. And it's a major problem because it'll smoke, your motor will smoke, and you'll run out of oil very quickly. On this motor I have that problem, and I haven't done anything about it for a while, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, another thing is that these motors are very famous for backfiring through their carburetor. The carburetor, that is a major problem, because if you use carburetor cleaner, the carburetor cleaner will ignite and your motor will be on fire if it backfires through the carburetor good enough. Only once have I ever had a really bad carburetor backfire, and that causes by a valve your intake valve getting stuck open, and it being on the compression stroke, and then it will explode, and then it'll just push everything right through the carburetor. And once I had it so bad that it pushed the carburetor off the boot. and that's pretty bad, obviously. So we'll just start this thing up so you can hear it, so it's not a boring information video. This is straight piped. And every time you an old four-wheeler like this, it's a good idea to, if it's clicking, then that means your pump is running, so wait for the clicking to stop and then start it, because you'll just be running down your battery, because it won't start unless the carburetor is full of gas at the bottom. So I'll just start this thing up real quick.